Welcome to After the Rain, a storytelling podcast from Playa Lakes Joint Venture. These are the voices stewarding the land and the stories that surface after the rain. Q Stable isn't a single action. It's a long-term goal built from many decisions on many farms across many communities. We're continuing a series exploring how communities and Kansas Groundwater Management District Number 1 are working together to address water challenges and protect water for future generations. Throughout the series, you'll hear from local leaders, producers, and scientists who are turning conversations and real-world decisions into long-term solutions. So, what does it look like when a producer is ready to take action? What options exist? And where do playas fit into a broader water stability effort? To answer that, we ask Matt Smith, Conservation Delivery Manager for Playa Lakes Joint Venture.
My role is really just to listen to people and listen to producers and kind of learn what their needs and objectives are for their property. And then I kind of take it from there and try to connect them to the best opportunity to meeting some of those needs and their goals that they have.
Sometimes that opportunity is a program. Sometimes it's technical advice, but a lot of times it brings the conversation back to a feature many people drive past without thinking much about: playas.
One producer said it the best. He said, once we reach this goal of Q stable that we're trying to achieve, he said that's when playas really take on even greater importance.
In the simplest terms, what is a playa?
We've all driven down the road and hit a pothole. Basically, that's what a playa is. And that's even a common name for playas is potholes or mud holes, or buffalo wallows is another common name. But it's basically the low place on the landscape. And they're technically called depressional wetlands.
Playas hold water after rainfall because of the clay layer at the bottom. And that water can do two important things: help recharge the aquifer and support wildlife. So, why are playas more than just wet spots out in the field? Matt says playas are a primary source of groundwater recharge.
They're a real important part of the recharge to the aquifer. They're also on a landscape that's heavily dominated by agriculture.
And when they're restored, playas work the way they were designed to work, catching runoff, sending it down towards the aquifer, then temporarily holding water to provide wildlife habitat.
That's a big part of the restoration, is finding ways to get that water back into the playa. And then once we do that, we want to protect that area, and that means putting some kind of a grass buffer around that playa.
Those buffers help trap sediment and contaminants before they enter the playa, protecting its ability to function and improving water quality. So, how does playa restoration support the broader goal of moving towards Q stable?
It provides one tool, and I think Governor Kelly said it right. She said something to the effect of, in all of our water challenges that we have in Kansas, we need every tool available to reach our goals, and playa restoration is definitely one of those tools that we have in our toolbox to help address that issue.
And that's important because playas cannot provide enough recharge to offset the amount of water being used to irrigate. That's why playa restoration needs to be paired with irrigation reduction and efficiency instead of treated as a fix by itself.
It may be the reduction in irrigation use. It may be being more efficient. Maybe there's low producing wells that just need to be retired. But all these things coming together are what's going to make a difference.
Another piece of this is partnership. Partners like Playa Lakes Joint Venture, GMD1, NRCS, and conservation districts each play a role in making these projects work.
It brings us all together kind of with a shared vision that we kind of work towards. We don't know anything about irrigation, but we learned about what people are doing, their challenges and things like that. And then we try to educate folks on our challenges with playa restoration and providing habitat for wildlife. Water is common to everyone, and so it gets us all at the table, and we're all talking. And the nice thing about playa conservation is it's a positive aspect to conservation.
That voluntary aspect matters. It's one reason producers are willing to explore these projects. For landowners wanting to start, Matt says it's easy.
I think the best place they can go to is a website called playasworkforkansas.com. And at that website, you'll find some tools that you can look at your actual playa on your property, and you can learn something about the recharge potential of that playa. You can learn a little bit about its health, whether it's functioning or not. You can start to learn about the programs that are available.
One of the first concerns Matt hears is cost.
Question I hear quite a bit, how expensive this is going to be. Is it going to cost me a lot of money? And sometimes the restoration effort can be fairly inexpensive if we're just planting grass around that playa, but it could run into some significant dollars if we're taking out a lot of sediment and we're removing terraces or something like that to get that hydrology restored. But for most of the programs that are out there, the cost share and the payments are nearly going to cover all the expenses for that restoration. And for some programs, there's even annual rental payments, very similar to CRP rental payments for that land.
So what does a successful restoration look like a few years down the road?
Playas are actually dry more than they're wet. And for a healthy functioning playa, that's probably very true. It's going to be dry most of the time until we get that big rain and the water comes in there. For a playa, the normal state of that playa is a dry playa. But when it is wet, that's when it provides all the biodiversity and the wildlife use. The waterfowl and ducks and geese will show up almost immediately. And a lot of the critters and wildlife and insects, especially, even amphibians and reptiles, that are very much adapted to this wet, dry cycle that takes place in playas.
Matt says almost everyone notices the wildlife response, and some landowners even notice changes near home wells after big rains. So looking ahead, how do playas fit into the future of water management in western Kansas?
It's not forced, it's not, required, it's all voluntary, but it's a very positive aspect. It ends up with a product that helps the producer, may provide them recreation, whatever their interests are, a place to watch wildlife, things like that. It's just a win-win for everybody.
This episode is about restoring playas, one of the tools that make change doable. Because once landowners have awareness, the next question is always the same. What can I do and where do I start? In our next episode, we'll hear from Steve Compton, a producer in GMD1, about what it looks like to implement these practices into his farming operation and how it all started with a calculator.